What a weird connection I didn't expect to make until this moment. Hey y'all, my name is Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today. And for this video, we are going to be starting a new project based off my Read My Shelves. Alright, so before we get into anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments, did you read any romance for Valentine's Day? Let's talk about it if you did, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you've been on my channel for a while, you may have seen me do an installment of a project called Read My Shelves, which is essentially me trying to work down this owned TBR. All these books behind me that I have not yet read. I would always do my best to center them around a single theme, and though that was doing great, sometimes I wasn't prioritizing those videos enough. And so this year, a goal of mine is to get this baby down. I'm officially over 100 books, and I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like owning that many books that I haven't read. I'm gonna double down on these Read My Shelves, but I'm gonna add an additional element to it. I'm gonna be utilizing my TBR jars from last year, and these are gonna be my prompt to kick off each video. Then I have a random number generator, and it will decide whether I am going to read 2 books to 6 books. This could get kind of hard. If we start on these fantasies up here, that might be a little difficult. Luckily for me, I decided to prioritize the first of these videos for Valentine's Day, meaning whatever we get is gonna specifically be focused on my romance shelf. So we're gonna start things out by drawing our first prompt, and we're gonna go with this. This is definitely multiples. Intimidated by. I don't really know if I could say I'm intimidated by any of these books. No, I don't think this really applies. Most popular. Okay, that works. We're gonna do most popular. So let's start out with the random number generator so we can figure out how many books am I gonna have to pick first. And we got 4. Could be better, could be worse. Now let's go over here to Goodreads, number of ratings, and we're gonna go through and look at the romances. Technically, The Wrath in the Dawn is a romantasy, so I could do this. If romance is one of the first 2 genres, I'm picking it. Oh, it's the 3rd technically, so nope, not doing that. Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall, which is here somewhere. River Enchanted, also a fantasy romance. Let's see. Yep, River Enchanted, and that is also on my 10 books for the year. So we're already starting 2 new series. A Marvellous Light by Freya Marske. I'm pretty sure this one is too. Oh my god. Well, I am gonna have to find that one. I don't even know where it is yet. I think it's buried. So we're at 3. 4. Float Plan by Trish $1. Okay. This is not how I saw this project starting. I really was thinking I was going to be focusing on the romances, which I am, but I'm also getting in fantasy. You know what? It doesn't matter. We're reading off of my shelf. So I will talk to y'all again when I've started into one of these wonderful books. Hello, my loves. So I have started into my first book for my first Read My Shelves this year. So that was A Marvellous Light by Freya Marske. This is actually going to be my first book of 2025 that I will have started and finished in this year. So I think I chose a really good one to start off with because this is going so well. Immediately, I am so here for the relationship that's developing between these 2 characters because of the opposites attract element. I mean, we have literally got Dork and Jock. But along with that, I really like the setup of having a character who is very familiar with this magical world already, and then having one who doesn't know anything about it, and everything keeps having to be explained to him, because then it means that everything is getting explained to me in a way that, makes sure I actually can follow the world building. I'm still not 100% sure on how they perform their magic, because it seems like rather than honing it through a wand, they're taught to do so through a string, almost like they're forming, cat's cradle or something like that for kids. But as they grow older, they stop utilizing the string and just basically do different finger moves. Oh my god, I just realized it's like jutsus in Naruto. What a weird connection I didn't expect to make until this moment. But I do like the fact that Marske has really set out a whole vocabulary when it comes to this magic system and how it works, how they create their spells. I'm still not 100% on how the magic itself actually works. We're still learning what are the limits of it, but also what's the breadth of it. For example, a spell can't last for a really long amount of time, or you can't utilize magic to affect something in the past if it was like from a long time ago. Plus it's also limited by the distance. So that's kind of interesting. I'm really liking getting to learn about this magic. And the setting itself I think is also really good. Marske has definitely done a good job of settling me into this, I think like Edwardian, but I'm pretty sure Edwardian England, where like Robin is a baroness, and then on the other side, Edwin's family are kind of like new money, but at the same time, they're also magicians, so like they garner a bunch of accolades in a different way. Right now, I really am having a good time with it. The romance is more slow moving. Initially, there's obviously like hesitancy given the fact that at this point being gay is illegal. But once they both realize that the other person is attracted to men, it kind of like takes some of the edge off, but at the same time adds a layer of tension as they're getting to know each other, as a friendship is developing. And pretty quickly, they're already having to debate, is this just a friendship or am I starting to develop romantic feelings for this person? It also would be the first serious relationship that either of them have had, and so I'm liking getting to see that, just coming to terms with like having an adult relationship and really being able to connect to somebody in this way that neither of them have really had before. I also like the fact that we're getting to see them learn more about each other, especially since they are staying with Edwin's family as they're trying to figure out this whole magical mystery that's going on. Robin is really getting to see why Edwin is the way he is, why he's so prickly, how even though he does have magic, by magic society standards, he's pretty weak. So even though Robin himself doesn't have magic, like the people around Edwin still look at Robin more highly because of his station, and also because of the fact that he's like a boxer and pretty brawny and manly stereotypically. I'm really digging this. And this is another one of those where I'm like mad at myself that I've taken so long to get to it, because I knew I was gonna like this, and I am. I'm really liking it. So as far as the actual plot goes, Robin ends up taking over some sort of government job that he doesn't really understand, and he mostly only got put here because somebody else in government who was trying to help him didn't like his parents, and he thought by putting Robin into this position it would like embarrass him. Instead, pretty quickly, Robin realizes that this is actually a position tied to the magical world. He's like a liaison, and then unfortunately he ends up getting threatened and then cursed by some magicians who are searching for some weird contract thing. And if he doesn't find this contract, then this curse mark is going to probably end him. However, Edwin is trying to find the man who disappeared, and Robin ended up taking his place, but also now with what's going on, he's trying to help Robin take care of this curse mark, as well as find his friend, and then figure out what is it that these men are trying to find, and like, what does it actually mean? I have theories already. I'm nervous now that I'm gonna wanna just blast through the next 2 books in the series. Hello, my loves. So I officially finished out Marvelous Light by Freya Marske, and I thought I would love this, and I was correct. It was so freaking cute. I had a lot of fun with the story. I do think it was a little slow to start. Like, it did take a little bit of convincing to get me invested. But once the story really set up, once I had gotten to know both our main characters, and especially once the like real meat of the mystery had been set up, I was so here for it. I had a really good time. The Edwardian setting with fantastical elements was really immersive. I did feel very settled into the story, but I especially loved the main characters. Edwin and Robin both felt very well created, had a lot of nuance to them. It felt like every little bit of information we were given made perfect sense for everything we'd already learned, but then added on to all of it in such a great way to further build out this character. And I really liked the way that they played off each other. These two are definitely opposites, but like there are certain elements of their personalities that work together really well. I'm already a fan of opposites attract, but the fact that this was like a stupidly brave jock meets a determined but nervous nerd was just like so perfect. I adored it. I think they balanced each other out really well, and then I also appreciated the fact that like we do see them change in getting to know one another and how their personalities shift a little bit because they, you know, finally get to know somebody who understands them really well, and they get to be open with that person for the first time. I also greatly appreciate the fact that since the timeline of the story is on the shorter side, by the end of it, they're not like professing their undying love to each other. It's just that they like each other and, you know, they're willing to try out a relationship. And I really liked that. The spice Also definitely spicing, was very much here for it. The mystery itself was fun and intriguing. I do think there were some aspects of the story that were a bit predictable. I did see those coming, but there were other reveals done that I didn't expect, and I also liked that there's enough answered here to feel satisfying, but there are also enough unanswered questions to definitely have me coming back for the next book. Something I don't think I would say, but I like the utilization of misogyny in the story. Not only because of it being, you know, time accurate, but how it works with the fantastical elements of the story, and also how it works with some of the parts of the mystery when it comes to like solving it. But it also has me curious, you know, the people who are behind these things. I'm not sure. None of those suspicions were confirmed or denied here, so I'm still curious. Can't wait to see what's gonna go on there in the next book. The one real drawback I have with this book is I get the magic system. Like what Marske explained here, I understood, I could follow it. In terms of like actually seeing it work out, actually, you know, visualizing it happening, I'm still not really sure what's going on there. I will say, once I made the connection to like hand signs from Naruto, that was all I could think of every time somebody casts a spell. In the end though, like I said, really enjoyed this. Definitely planning to come back for the next book in this. It was 4.5 stars. I'm so glad I finally got around to this. I'm a little annoyed I took this long to another series that I've started and I want to immediately continue with. Is that gonna happen right now? Probably not. I don't have time for it. Hey y'all, so I have started into my second book of this video, Float Plan by Trish, and I'm actually about pushing 60% into this because I'm really enjoying it. I actually ended up downloading the ebook version of this because it's so short. I figured, you know, let's make it one of my little novella like reads that I'm having on my phone lately. It's been going pretty well, and so I've also been annotating it as I've been reading and transferring those over, and oh my goodness, I have a lot of annotations. Now that I actually know what this is about, I feel like I can give a better synopsis. We are following this young woman, I already forgot her name. We're following this young woman, Anna, who unfortunately at the start of this book, her fiance Ben has recently taken his own life. And unfortunately, she has just become a shell of a person since then and has really not known how to move on. But Ben had this dream that he was going to remake this old sailboat and that the two of them were going to go on this grand adventure. And I think it's about 10 months after his passing when an alarm on her phone goes off reminding her today is the day to go on the adventure, and she just sort of drops everything and is like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. This is what I'm gonna do for a proper farewell to Ben. And we watch as she goes through the multiple different stages of grief, but I really like how it's not segmented. It is very much all happening simultaneously. There's a lot of discussions around grief in this story, I will say. It's very heavy at times. But not long after Anna goes out on this quest, she ends up meeting this man, Keen. Wow, I'm really killing it with the names today. Keen, who is searching for a job and ends up taking her offer to work as a like kind of assistant and helping her sail to Puerto Rico. And he sort of ends up helping her with her grief process while she at the same time kind of helps him reinstill his confidence. He had an accident and ended up losing one of his legs. And since then, unfortunately, people have been more hesitant to hire him because of his disability, even though he is still an expert at sailing. Now they're probably pushing like a month together. And I really like the forced proximity that's going on in the story. I mean, forced proximity is definitely up there for one of my fave little tropes, but I also really appreciate the fact that it's very much in the small things. Like they do develop a friendship first and foremost, and you see all of the really small kind gestures that they have towards one another, the little in-jokes that they end up creating. And I also like that once romantic feelings start to develop, they both have the question of, is this something real, or is this just because we're the only other person that we're living with? Like we can't escape each other. But now it does feel like things are kind of really starting to make a move forward. So it is a little bit more slow burn because again, grief is very much at the forefront of the story. It is really heavy at times, but I like that there is some levity. It does have some funny moments, has some really sweet and cute moments, but the reflection we're seeing Anna go through is freaking tastic. I heard about this book a long time ago, and that's when I initially had an interest in it. And then I guess it was a few months ago now that Jack at Jack in the Book Stack read it and kind of reinvigorated my interest because she just had so many glowing things to say about it. And I totally get it. Like this is really good, especially for how short this book is. It really is packing a very solid punch. There's some very fantastic lines, and the tumultuous feelings she has towards Ben after what he did is just heartbreaking and heart-wrenching. It is so well presented, and the growth and healing we're watching her go through is just, it's really great. I'm really enjoying this. Yeah, this was literally me making time to film an update because I know I'm gonna keep reading this, and if I didn't do it now, chances are I probably wouldn't talk to y'all until I finish this book. Hey guys, so I've officially finished out Float Plan by Trish Dollar, and I'm very impressed with this book. For being a short little romance, it packed quite a punch. It was cute, it was funny, but it also had some phenomenal lines around grief and healing. Going into this knowing that it had heavy themes around grief, I expected to cry. I did not expect to cry 3 times. Even though this was a romance book, it is kind of interesting that sometimes it felt like the romance did fall on the back burner because we spend so much time really just focused on Anna working through the grieving process and also trying to figure out how to move forward with her life and what kind of person does she want to be now that she is not intrinsically tied to her prior fiance. Even still though, the romance was always present. It's always hanging out in the background, and especially the more we get to see Anna and Keen getting to know one another, the harder it was to deny the tension that was developing there. I mean, this book is not even 300 pages, and yet it somehow manages to feel slow burn, and that's really impressive. Like I said, a lot of this book does just follow Anna going through the really complicated process of grieving Ben. It's heavy and raw and sad, and I think Dollar's writing around her grieving process was so well done. It made something that feels so complicated come across in a really simple and relatable way. I really loved Anna's growth as a character throughout the story, and the fact that she realized she needed to work on herself and that she improved as an individual without having to rely too much on Keen and this new relationship she was developing. I mean, I always love whenever authors really emphasize a character needing to grow on their own outside of their relationship. Part of me wishes this did have dual perspective because I tend to prefer those sorts of romances. However, I think even without Keen's perspective, he still managed to jump off the page and become a fully fleshed out character. Sometimes I'd worry that he would become too perfect because there were numerous moments where it's like men like this just do not exist. He is way too perfect. And somehow every time that was starting to happen, Dollar would make him say or do something stupid, or we'd see a really realistic moment of grief, and it would always ground him back down and make him more realistic, which I thought was really well done. He was charming and funny, and I really loved that he and Anna developed a friendship first and foremost. I really enjoyed watching these two explore the Caribbean, and I do think it would have been very easy for all of these places to run together, but surprisingly, Dollar never let that happen. Every stop they made managed to be different, and Dollar always was able to highlight whatever beauty came from that area. When it came to that, things just started to drag a little bit at the end, which tells me this book is the perfect length. Like, if it had gone on any longer, I think it would have been too much. This was really good. I cannot wait to see more from this author. I'm definitely going to read the second and third in the series. Those also have pretty positive reviews. I don't know if I quite loved this enough to give it a 5-star, but I really did like it to the point that I'm gonna say 4.5 stars because it really was just that good. Again, this is a really short book, and I had so many freaking annotations. Look at this. So many, because Dollar's writing was just really well done. So I highly recommend this one. Hey y'all, so I have slightly surpassed the halfway point into Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall, and it was really difficult for me to stop reading this today because I'm having such a good time. It definitely is scratching a similar itch in my brain to Red, White, and Royal Blue, and I remember that when this came out, that was like all I could liken this to. That was kind of why I put off reading this, because I was really worried I would just consistently be comparing it to Red, White, and Royal Blue, which was one of my favorite books at the time. And I do still love it. It's a really cute queer romance. But I think part of what I'm really enjoying with this one is that, first off, both of the characters are already aware that they are queer, but also each of them are total disasters in their own way. Luke really is just like doing his absolute best to live his everyday life. His father is a world-renowned rock star who was really well known for just being trashed constantly. I think like a la Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, somebody like that. And then his mom was a French singer who was also very popular. They had a whirlwind romance, and Luke's father ended up leaving when he was like 3. So he has no relationship with this man, but he's tangentially famous because of him. And unfortunately, bad press has started to affect his life, particularly his job, where he is trying to gather donations for this basically a dung beetle nonprofit. So his boss kind of puts in his mind that like he needs to appear as a more respectable guy in the media, and so his thought process is to start dating somebody who is very respectable, namely somebody who works with his friend Oliver, who is, he appears very respectable. He is a barrister or a lawyer, you know, for us Americans, and he seems very put together, but I really appreciate that even though we're not seeing from his perspective, we are starting to realize that Oliver has his own stuff he's hung up on and his own anxieties that are affecting how he interacts with Luke. Luke is a total hot mess though. He was burned quite badly in his prior relationship because of the situation with the paparazzi, and so he's both so lonely and desperate for connection, but also absolutely terrified of a situation like that happening again, so he doesn't know who to trust. And I'm very impressed at the balancing Alexis Hall is doing between those two in Luke's character, because it actually feels very authentic. It feels very realistic to this character, and so many of his interactions, though they are very frustrating because he keeps getting in his own way, they make sense for the character Hall has shown to us. And like I was saying, the more we're seeing of Oliver, the more we're starting to learn that like he has his own issues he's dealing with, even though he does, you know, come across as so perfect. Unfortunately, he keeps repeatedly getting dumped because something just isn't quite perfect in his relationships, and he's starting to realize maybe that's him. I also do really like the fact that even though this is fake dating, a lot of people know they are fake dating, and along with that, like their friends ship them together. The more they hang out, the more their fake dates are very much just becoming real dates. Like they say they're fake texting, and it's just them, you know, actually texting. So I do appreciate the fact that the fake dating element isn't falling into a lot of the traps I feel like it does when it starts to annoy me. And I also love that they're utilizing these fake dates and fake texting that they're doing in order to get to know each other well and to like better sell this thing that they're doing, and obviously along the way starting to learn that they actually have feelings for each other. This book has also been super funny. There's been a few moments here and there that I've laughed so hard I've cried, and that's always impressive. Luke's mother is probably one of my new favorite characters ever. She's super French and she just does not care what anybody thinks. She is so true to herself, and I love it. And I really appreciate how she loves Luke so much, and there's some complicated situation that comes up with Luke's father as well, and she explains to him that it doesn't matter what route he decides to take, like this is up to him, and no matter what, she loves him and she supports him, and it was a really sweet moment. And then it was furthered by her connecting with Oliver and telling him that like he doesn't need to feel threatened by people who are more open about their sexuality or more out and proud, that he's perfect just the way he is. And it was such a sweet moment. It was so cute, y'all. It was really cute. So even though both of these characters are total disasters and sometimes watching them interact is painful, I am absolutely loving this. It's really been a fun, cute time. I started this I think last night before I went to my brother's, and if I could have, I would have been nonstop reading it all day today because I'm just loving it. Hey y'all, so I'm gonna go off the cuff with this one, which always means I end up rambling for way too long, but I have finished out Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall, and I really liked this. I'm impressed with Hall in that how they laid this story out somehow managed to stick very true to the traditional romance plotline, but also kind of change things up a little bit. There's a dramatic element that happens around the halfway point that could almost feel like the third act conflict, but there is also a third act conflict, and that literally drags all the way out to like the last chapter of the book. This is fake dating, and it could have really easily fallen into some of the fake dating traps that I don't really like. It's interesting because it kind of did, but also sort of didn't. Again, just was impressed at how Hall ended up writing that, and that also reinforced the realisticness of each of the characters, because though I really liked them individually and I also really liked them together, both of these boys are total disasters. And I thought it was really cool that the first half of the book really focuses more on Luke and dives into his problems, his issues that he's needing to work on in order to become a better person and therefore a better partner in a romantic relationship, while the second half finally starts to kind of look behind the veneer of Oliver and see what's going on in his life that Luke hasn't really been privy to, and how that's going to affect him and a relationship moving forward. It was frustrating, but also felt very true to real life. I also just really enjoyed all of the side characters in this story. Luke's mom is possibly one of my favorite fictional parents ever. The plot that was going on around Luke's relationship with his father, which I don't want to talk about too much because of spoilers, but I actually really enjoyed the way Hall rounded that out at the end because it didn't feel like a Hallmark movie. It wasn't this perfect reunion. It was messy and left Luke with some really complicated feelings after the fact. I also loved Luke's friend group and how throughout the events of the story, he started to really appreciate them more and how important they were to him. That was just so unexpected, and it's not really very integral to the story, but I really enjoyed the way Hall worked that into it. Unfortunately, now I have really complicated feelings because I liked these characters and I really enjoyed their romance. And with how this book ends, like there's such an opportunity to dive into more with their relationship. But I've heard really mixed things about the sequel to this book. And some of the negatives seem like things that would very much bug me. So I don't know if I want to read the sequel. So if you've read this series, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I really enjoyed this one though, and I'm absolutely going to be checking out more from this author. This is an author I've been wanting to look at for quite some time, and I finally freaking did that thanks to this video. In the end, I'd probably give this one, do I want to say 4-star or 4.5? I'm really torn between giving this a 4 and a 4.5, honestly. I don't think I quite loved it enough to label it a 5-star. I did have a few issues, namely with pacing, and again, I do kind of wish there was a little bit more added to the end because it does feel a bit like an abrupt stop, but I also really liked it. I really liked the characters and I really enjoyed the relationship and the familial drama. And yeah, so editing that will tell you on the screen what I decided to officially put this at. But one way or another, it was really freaking good. Hey y'all, so I have hit the halfway point into A River Enchanted finally. I was most excited but also most apprehensive going into this one for this video. However, at this point, I feel like I shouldn't have doubted Rebecca Ross because I do really enjoy her writing. This is so atmospheric in the way that she excels at. I am totally settled into this world. We're in the Scottish Highlands. It's definitely going to be more medieval time period, though I'm not 100% certain on that because it is also a fantastical world. While yes, I would arguably say the main character is Jack, this bard who has left the island that he grew up on in order to become a successful musician and has now been asked to return back by his laird. However, it turns out it was not the laird he thought. Instead, it is the up-and-coming heiress, the laird's daughter, Adara, who was kind of his like childhood enemy, but she brings to him the issue that unfortunately young girls have been disappearing from their village, and she's hoping that his abilities as a bard will allow her to connect with the folk and ask for their help in finding these girls because the village believes that someone in the folk world is responsible for it. So there are fairies in this, but they do feel a lot more true to the originals from folk stories that I enjoy more. I wasn't aware of that going in. Along with them though, we also follow Torin and Sidra. Torin is the captain of the guard, so he is really in charge of protecting the village, and obviously there's a lot of pressure on him to try and find these young women. And then we have his wife Sidra. They are a newer married couple, and really the crux of their relationship is based on his daughter Maisie. My best friend Allie told me I am allowed to give her no criticisms about Torin and Sidra, and thankfully so far I have none. I actually really enjoy their relationship. You can tell they care about each other a lot, but it doesn't feel like they had a whirlwind romance and got married. At this point, it feels like they became really close friends and got married, and now are kind of slowly falling in love with each other more and more, and I really like how it is being written, so much so that I think the other relationship with Jack and Adara really like pales in comparison thus far. But that being said, Jack has always felt like he does not belong in this village, and he's never really felt like he has a place. And Adira is finally kind of giving him that with this ask, but at the same time, like it is very much a convenience. But the whole scene around it was just so sweet and so heartwarming. I loved it. The biggest downside for me right now is in Adira's character, honestly. I don't really have very many strong feelings about her outside of being a romantic interest for Jack, and I don't like that, especially in comparison to Sidra. I have more interest in her character outside of being the romantic partner to Torin. I also like her role as a mother. I like her role as the healer for the village. I'm really interested in her background. However, I don't really have that for Adira. Like, yes, she is coming up to be the new laird of the village, but like I just don't feel like we've really seen enough around it or really gotten a lot about her feelings around this situation for me to, you know, be excited for her or nervous for her or anything like that. She's really only been working for me as a romantic partner in the story, and I'm hoping that will change. So far though, overall, I am very much enjoying this. It is going so well for me, and I'm very excited to continue reading. Hey y'all, so I've officially finished out my last book for this video, A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. Ross, and I wouldn't say this was a situation where I finished it and I was like mad at myself for having taken so long to get to this book. I do feel like this does still showcase the beauty that is Rebecca Ross's writing. She's definitely one of my queens for atmosphere and whimsical storytelling. I felt so settled into the magical historical world she had created here. The writing itself is also just so beautiful and fantastical with so many emotional quotes throughout it. I really, really liked this. So as I've talked about before, we alternate back and forth between like Jack, Torrin, Sidra, a few other side characters here and there. I did grow to care about Jack so much, which is kind of funny because at the start I felt very ambivalent about him, whereas Sidra was almost immediately interesting to me. But thankfully by the end of this, I did really enjoy Jack as a character. I really liked the layers to him, and I was really, really invested in his finally getting a little bit of a happily ever after in this village. Obviously this is a duology, so this is not the end of his story, and so we don't quite get that. Even still though, by the end of this book, I don't feel like his love interest, Adira, the future laird of the clan, it ever really felt completely fleshed out. I think there were little aspects to her character that showcased something more than this, you know, young woman who has expecting to become the leader of her clan for so long and is kind of become like the much loved princess. But we really don't get that much. And so off of that, I didn't really love Adira's character, and I wasn't super invested in the romance that developed between these two. There were a few moments that were very cute, I'll admit, but even still, these two paled in comparison to Sidra and Torrin, who we learn had a marriage of convenience, and they have just been growing closer over the years and growing to care about each other so much more. And oh God, their relationship was so beautiful. Both of them were so well characterized. I think there is a great juxtaposition between the two of them, what with him being the captain of the guard and she being a healer. But at the same time, I also really enjoy the parallels of their characters because they both want to take care of others. Everything from how their relationship started to like the longing that eventually develops and the doubts they have in their relationship because of how it started. It was all so emotional. It was so well layered. It was very, very moving. It had some really phenomenal moments, some gorgeous lines that just you can't help but swoon. I also really enjoyed Sidra's role as a stepmother in this story and seeing her relationship with her daughter Maisie. As far as the magical mystery goes, I did really enjoy the plot, but it is a little meandering, and I do feel like that matches with the whimsical folklore-esque aspect of this. But it also was a little predictable at times, especially because there would be like little hints to something, but those hints were a bit too obvious, so you could kind of figure out where the next step was going to go. And also the ending. I feel like the ending dragged, but I'm gonna be honest, I also think that may be in part due to we're mostly focused on Jack and Adira at the end of the book. And like I said, they just weren't really as interesting to me. Plus, there is a cliffhanger at the end of this, and it is intriguing, but the mystery is solved at the end of this book. It's one of those where that we're setting up to see, you know, how this changes things for the characters and focus more on the battle that's been going on between the two sides of this aisle. But there's not really a ton of urgency at the end that makes me want to go immediately pick up the next book. I wasn't left faunching at the bit for it. This is one where like I think I could take my time before I eventually pick up the second. I'm still going to pick it up. I'm just not super desperate for it. So in the end, this was like a 4-star. I did still very much enjoy it. As I said, I could see myself rereading it and going through to annotate some of this beautiful writing. So all in all, not a bad way to round out this video. So that's it for today, y'all. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave me the wave emoji in the comments. I have all my socials as well as a few ways you can support me linked in the description, including a link to my Patreon if you're interested. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!